you're training for a marathon or a half marathon, you're probably following a simple repeating 7-day schedule, with your long run maybe at the weekend, possibly 1 or 2 speed sessions during the week, and then easy effort runs in the gaps in between. It sounds straightforward. Great, but here's the problem. A simple repeating 7-day sequence like that can actually limit your progress, and not in the way that most runners would expect. Hi, I'm Stuart. Welcome to Finish Line Focus, where I help ordinary runners like you to train smarter, race faster, and enjoy every mile. All kilometre. Okay, so let's break down what a very typical 7-day training cycle might look like. So quite often for most people, most people got other things going on in their lives. So probably using the weekend for the long run or the LSR. So the long run's really important to have that every week. That's your main endurance builder. It's a session that everything else supports. So it's really important to have that. Then you're probably going to follow that with an easy session the next day. So a gentle run to flush out the fatigue, keeping the legs moving, building on your mileage. So you're getting your weekly mileage up from those easy effort runs. And then you're probably going to have a rest day after that, or a very easy recovery style day. So some runners do take full rest. Some do a short recovery run or some cross training, perhaps. So in this sequence, that's falling on the Monday. Of course, you might follow a similar sequence that starts on the Sunday, or maybe even the Tuesday or the Wednesday or something like that. But the basic principle applies of the 7-day sequence. So here on the Tuesday, we've got an interval session. So this is a hard workout. So short, fast repeats to boost your VO2 max and your running economy. And then followed by that on the Wednesday here, an easy effort run again. But then you'll notice it goes straight into threshold on the next day, which is another quite tough session on the Thursday in this. This is where you have sustained effort quite near your lactate threshold, and this improves your metabolic fitness. So in other words, it helps you to run at a certain pace for longer, and often the threshold run is referred to as the marathon runner's best friend. And then on the Friday in this example, so the last day of the week, we've got an easy or a rest day ahead of the long run that comes again the next day after that, when your sequence begins again. Trying to cram an interval workout, a threshold session, and a long run into 1 week is a bit like trying to cram a giraffe, a kangaroo, and a rhino into a Mini Cooper. It just doesn't fit. So at a glance, you can see that the hard sessions are where I've coded it green here. So you've got the Saturday, the Tuesday, and the Thursday, with the other days being easy or rest. So around 80% of your mileage is an easy effort, which is the majority of your weekly volume, which is good practice. So what's good about this 7-day approach? There are some really great positives here. Firstly, it's simple and it's predictable. So as I said a minute ago, we've all got lives outside of running. This is likely to fit around your life, your work life, your family life, any other commitments that you might have. And also it does cover the essentials. So you got the really important long run in there, as well as speed work. So your threshold, your interval sessions, and all of your easy effort sessions, which are very important as well for your mileage. So it's got all of those key ingredients in there spread across the week. I will mention that for the purpose of simplicity, I have left out some of the extras like strength sessions, marathon pace runs here, just really because I want to communicate the key principles of what you would typically have in most of your marathon training. And also with a sequence like this, most runners would tolerate that. As long as the mileage isn't too high, it can work for you, and indeed it does work for many people. Another good thing is that recovery is built in. So if you have a look at the plan, most easy days after a hard session are genuinely easy if you stick to the plan. So where does this fall down? Okay, here is where the 7-day model begins to show its cracks. Firstly, there are spacing problems here, especially around that really important interval session. So intervals often fall 2 or 3 days before or after the long run. So fatigue from the previous long run can reduce the quality of your intervals, or vice versa. A rigid weekly schedule doesn't account for how your body actually recovers from all of this hard work. Long runs are a bit like when your in-laws come to visit. I mean, you survive, but really you're going to need some recovery time. In this model, you could argue that there are too many hard sessions in a week as well. So you've got your long run, your threshold, and your interval workouts. That's 3 high stress sessions taking place every single week as part of your training. Your body is excellent at maths. It quickly calculates that 2 hard sessions plus a long session in the same week equals nope. Doing all 3 consistently can really push your recovery to the limit. So if your easy days aren't truly easy, your hard sessions are going to suffer and they're not going to count in the way that you would want them to. Also, a 7-day repetition might not match fatigue cycles. So your body doesn't recover on a strict 7-day schedule. Your body doesn't know what a week is. A lot of plans are put together like this for the sake of simplicity and fitting around people's lives, which you get, which I do understand. 1 week, 2 easy days might be enough before a threshold session, but the next week the same 2 days might not be sufficient, so your body might be responding differently. Fatigue varies, but the plan repeats rigidly. This sequence also falls down in terms of compromising quality. So your easy runs can quite easily drift into being faster than intended just to hit weekly mileage, and hard sessions might be started under residual fatigue or they might finish tired. So this compromises the quality of your runs, something that you're only going to notice after a few weeks of your training. So in simple terms, a 7-day repeating cycle can be really, really convenient, but it does make it hard to space your sessions adequately so that you are getting optimal performance and the most benefit from your training. I would suggest that the hard sessions are too close together because spacing is really important, and also the quantity of them. You don't necessarily need that many tough sessions, a long run, a threshold and an interval every single week. Recovery is so important. You really need to factor that in. A 7-day weekly cycle definitely has its advantages and it works for many people, but I think really the only really key kind of argument in favor of them is convenience, because it is definitely suboptimal for a number of reasons. So while it may work for some runners, which is great, the problems arise if you want to maintain quality, manage fatigue and really truly hit your potential. So how can we structure our training plan so that hard sessions are properly spaced, easy runs stay easy, and we're able to hit our mileage and quality targets? That's where a 14-day cycle comes in. I have to say that genuinely this approach has worked a lot for me and made a tremendous difference. So since I switched to a 14-day cycle, I can see from my own records where I always keep a record of all of my runs and I color code them, and I can see at a glance that I have done more of my runs. They've been higher quality. My training's just better. And it's just working. It's doing what it's meant to do. Instead of trying to cram all your hard sessions into a single week, a 14-day approach gives you the capacity to spread those out over a longer time period. This gives your body more room to recover between high stress sessions while keeping total training volume and intensity consistent. Okay, let me walk you through a typical 14-day training sequence for someone preparing for a marathon or a half marathon. I'm going to start with week A of Saturday. Of course, your first day of the week might be a different day, but this is for illustration purposes. So the first thing that I want you to notice here, if you look at where I've highlighted green, those key sessions, so those long or difficult sessions, hopefully you can see at a glance that they are more spaced out so that there's more opportunity for adequate recovery from all of those sessions. So the issue of spacing has been resolved. Intervals, threshold, and long runs are no longer crammed altogether. Each high stress session gets proper recovery before the next one. This approach also maintains quality. So hard sessions can be performed at target intensity because fatigue from previous hard sessions will have dissipated by the time that you actually carry out that hard session. Easy runs stay truly easy as well. So there'll be no creeping into moderate pace to fit mileage. It's very dangerous if you do find yourself going for easy runs and they're not really easy, because this has been shown to interfere with the adaptation from the previous hard session, making it pretty much redundant. We've also got flexible sequencing in here as well. So if one session feels off due to fatigue or life stress or anything else that might get in the way, as things inevitably do, you've got more room to adjust without disrupting the rest of the cycle. So by making sure that you focus on those quality sessions, you're less likely to be missing out sessions, or at least you won't miss out as many with this approach to it. Also, it supports consistent aerobic volume. So even after hard sessions, if you look, you can see that you can run high mileage easy days without overloading, just making sure that easy mileage always stays easy. I think that's a really important thing for us to always remember. And this accommodates other training elements as well. So I have purposefully left out strength training from this. However, strength work, hills, race pace sessions would fit in more easily without overcrowding the week. Of course, there are a few trade-offs. I mean, just from looking at it, yes, it's a little bit trickier to track. So you'll need to keep a careful record of where you're up to in your 2-week sequence. Whereas with a 1-week sequence, you might think, well, Saturday is my long run day. You know, it's like Monday is my intervals or whatever. So you do lose that advantage when you move to a 14-day cycle. And it requires a bit more planning, a bit more discipline just to stick to that sequence. And you know what? Some runners might just prefer the simplicity of sticking to a 7-day cycle and be willing to sacrifice a little bit of quality, and that is fine. So in short, a 14-day cycle allows you to fit in all of your key quality sessions, so your long runs, your threshold, your intervals, but also your slower, your easy effort miles as well, without feeling that you're having to cram them all in, whilst also making sure that you've got adequate recovery from those tough sessions as well, meaning that they are higher in quality. So while it perhaps is a little bit harder to plan, this is a lot more sustainable for runners who are really looking for PBs or to achieve a specific goal. Frankly, it makes it more likely that this will happen. Okay, guys, if you found this breakdown useful, please drop a comment below, because I'm really interested to hear what you do and what works for you. Have you always stuck with a traditional 7-day cycle? Do you use a 14-day cycle? Do you use a 10-day cycle? There are lots of different ways of doing this. I'm really interested to hear what you do, what's worked for you, what hasn't worked for you. Would you be open to trying something different if you have confidence that it will improve your outcomes in your next race? If you want more tips on everything to do with marathon, half marathon, 10K training, hit subscribe, turn on your notifications. We've got lots more content on the channel for you to be looking at, so stick with us on Finish Line Focus, where I help you to train smarter, race faster, and hopefully enjoy every mile. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.